What's up, man? It's Coach JJ. JJ Answers. Haven't done this in a long ass time, so I just want to jump right into it. First, I'm going to go over the Juco NCAA case with the eligibility thing. I think a lot of people are getting very confused by that, so I want to talk about that for a little bit, and then I'm just going to answer questions that I got from my Instagram. All right, so first off, the thing where people think they can go to Juco for 2 years and then get 4 years of NCAA eligibility right away, that's not a fact. That's not set in stone. The NCAA has not passed that. So people are just like regurgitating something they heard, hearsay. They don't read articles. Okay, I read the article in CBS Sports and I read the article in Forbes. And what was done was the quarterback from Vanderbilt, right? He went to Juco, then he went to New Mexico State. Now he's at Vanderbilt. And he went to court because he argued that the junior college years should not count towards the NCAA years because NCAA doesn't have any jurisdiction over the junior colleges. It's like he argued that it's the exact same thing as prep school, and so that those years should not count against his NCAA eligibility. And I agree with that. Like I agree with his statement. I think that's valid. But then that becomes, a whole thing of, well, what about NAIA? Could I go to JUCO for 2 years? Could I go to NAIA for 4 years and then have 4 years of eligibility for NCAA? Like, could I do that? You know what I'm saying? Because what regulation or what jurisdiction does the NCAA have over NAIA? They really don't have any. And so I'm telling you, it's a big thing right now. It sounds good in theory, but just to let y'all know, like they did not pass that. It's not true. They only granted it for him in his specific case because he took it to court. Now, what can happen is they're gonna run into this problem, a few more times. Like other people are probably preparing cases, in order to fight that same exact thing. And, the judge said that he doesn't see why he wouldn't rule the same way if more cases came forward like that. And, in my opinion, I think that it's fair, but because in reality, right, if you go to prep school, okay, that's 1 year, you're 19. What's the difference between prep school and junior college? Not much. You know what I'm saying? And so I kind of agree with that statement, to where it's like, this isn't NCAA, sports. This is a lower level. And so why does this count? And I think what this is going to do is open up the floodgates for a lot of things. It's like, it's basically flipping the entire model of NCAA on its head, because you could argue, why should I only have 4 years of eligibility if I'm trying to get a master's? Like, why can't I play NCAA for 7 years? You know what I'm saying? Like, and it goes back to the NAI thing. I think what's going to happen is these things are just going to turn into a pro league over time. But the reason they're holding on to it so strongly is because of the education part of it. It's like, okay, I can charge a kid 50,000, which I'm not even getting from the kid. I'm getting from the loan that they have to pay, which you can't file bankruptcy to get out of. And it's this, just this money racket where they're just taking money and offering you up this standard one package deal education, where you still got to take Gen Ed, which is high school 2.0 for anybody that hasn't been to college yet. You got to redo high school for the first 2 years. No one ever tells you that. It's just, it opens up the gates for a lot, man. And I think this is a good thing. I think, the rules that they have in place as far as the money, like kids couldn't make money. You couldn't even accept a gift. So if someone wanted to give me $100 because I needed it because I'm fucking starving, I can't take it because I'm a student athlete. Like, what? That doesn't make any sense. So I think student athlete is dead. All that shit is dead. I think it's really gonna be a pro league. I think all the best programs in the country are gonna have to combine themselves into one league, kind of like a Champions League, because nobody wants to watch Alabama beat up on, and Doug Gottlieb's words, nothing you, or nobody you, 50-0 the first game of the season. Like, that's just stupid. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be. I think they should go to the soccer model. I think they should. Somebody said buy players. Like, so when Chelsea wants to buy a player from some random team in Italy, they got to pay that club in order to get that player. I think that's a fair model, and I think the teams should go into a relegation model. So all the legacy teams, like the Dukes and the Kentuckys and all UConns and all those type of teams, I think those should be in the same league. And I think all of the mid majors should be in their own second league. And I think there should be relegation and promotion. Like, if you're one of the last four teams in the top league, then you should get relegated. You know what I mean? You get less money, you get less sponsors, you get less TV time, you get less all that shit. And so then it really puts an emphasis on quality of product and quality of teams, because again, I love UConn women's basketball, but I'm tired of watching them beat teams by 40. I just don't want to see that. Them playing Notre Dame though, I'm there for that. Like, that's a good matchup. And so I think they need to just redo the entire thing. But just to reiterate, the Juco ruling that y'all are hearing, where it's automatic, the NCAA has not ruled anything as far as changing their eligibility requirements. They just granted it for this specific case, but they will be facing more cases in the future. I can probably see that happening. Then if that starts to happen, then it's going to be a real conversation. But it's not just this thing where it's overnight. Yeah, you get 4 years of eligibility if you play JUCO. Like, they're not doing that, bro. It's the NCAA. Come on, they're not doing that. But I just wanted to throw that out there for everybody that doesn't read articles, which is like 3-4 minute reads. It's not that hard. And just let y'all know that it's only for this one guy's case. But look forward to more cases in the future. All right, now for the Q&A part of the show. I'm a little rusty, man. I ain't done one of these in a long time. But these are straight off the Instagram. I'm just going to read them. I'm going to answer them. And we're going to go like that. All right. So the first one is, how can I become more confident on the court with no fear? There's two things, right? Number one, confidence comes from competence. How good are you at the thing? And of course, I said before that confidence has nothing to do with your skills, but it can help. So it's two-sided. Number one is, are you actually good at the thing that you're trying to be confident at? Do you have experience doing that? That's always going to come first. So if you're not practicing every day, if you're not facing, good competition every day, if you're not playing open gym every day at live or one-on-ones, or whatever it is, don't expect to be confident. Why would I be confident in my golf swing and I never practice golf? You know what I'm saying? It's the same with basketball. It's the same with everything. So practice the thing that you want to get good at and put yourself in an environment where you actually have to be tested to see if the things you've been working on is going to work. That's number one. The second thing is, are you comfortable with failing and comfortable looking quote unquote bad? That's really what it's going to come down to as well. If you're not comfortable going in front of somebody, in front of a crowd or in front of whoever, and putting forth your best effort, even though it might not be great yet, you're not going to get anywhere. Eventually, you're going to have to do it without being perfect at it yet. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, I had to make a video without being good at videos. I just had to make a video. I was like, hey, I'm not good. I didn't even think I wasn't good. I was like, fuck it, I'm just going to make a video. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't looking to get something out of it. And I think that's the second part, is like, you got to play just to play. That's really how you get to that point of not really caring whether you're good or bad yet. You just got to play because you want to play, because it's fun. Like, that's how everybody started. You weren't embarrassed the first time you picked up a basketball and you shot an air ball. And like, you just wanted to play and try and figure it out. But then over time, you kind of got sucked into this mindset of having to prove something, and having to look a certain way and having to perform a certain way. Like, at the end of the day, it's all the same. Just play because you want to play and get better every day, and love the competition and the work and, the fun of it all. And then over time, you'll start to make the progress and get what you want. But just stop judging yourself so damn much. Set your standard and do the work required to reach that standard and live with the results, and stop caring about what people think. Like, their words are not going to affect your life. They can't physically alter your outcome. You know what I mean? Like, when you get on the court, eventually you got the ball and there's a defender. Can you beat him physically or not? Doesn't matter what anybody has said up to that point. Doesn't matter what the coach's strategy is. When you catch that ball, can you beat your defender? Yes or no? If the answer is yes, do it. If the answer is no, fucking work on it. You know what I'm saying? I think that's really what it is. And that's how you become more confident. Just be confident in who you are right now, regardless of how good it is or how good it looks. That's really what it is. The next question is, how do I defend better without hand checking? I think this comes down to beating someone to the spot. So don't necessarily try to stay with them. When they're going somewhere, go to where they're going. You want to cut them off. You don't necessarily want to stay with them. That's the difference. And then just don't touch them. like you touching them because you can't keep up footwork wise. So you got to work on your lateral quickness and strength and different things like that. And then you got to practice the technique of, sliding back at an angle to beat them to the spot, and rotating and pivoting when they change directions, different things like that. Actually work on that technique and pick up people full court when you go open gym, or if you play a one-on-one, like play full court ones and pick up full court in the press, so you can actually work on the technique and just discipline yourself to not put your hands on people. If you get beat, you get beat, but you got to try to move those feet and stay disciplined and get your chest in front of the ball. Like that's your goal, is to cut the ball off with your chest and make them change directions. Once you're able to learn how to do that, then you'll do a little bit less hand checking and let them initiate the contact. But you just got to be disciplined enough to not put your hands on people. It's really that simple. And then practice the technique and go against people and work on your quickness and stuff like that. How do I slow the game down? I tend to play rushed. I think slowing the game down, honestly, it comes from experience. If you're very, very experienced in basketball, it becomes very slow. Like for me, right? The first time I played, I'm trying to think. The first time I played varsity, it probably was fast. I wish I could remember. The only thing I remember about my very first varsity minute was the second I touched the ball, I went straight to the basket. I didn't even think twice about it. I caught that ball and I did some move and I ended up getting fouled and I went to the free throw line. Like that was my very first moment in a varsity game, But I remember there were times where the game was too fast at certain levels. Like the first time I played JV, it was a little bit fast. I had these moments, and I think the only way I was able to overcome it was just experience on that level, and keep working at the game and watching the film and different things like that, and knowing what to look for, and having a coach that's going to help you. You can't really beat experience, and that's the only way it starts to slow down, is you've done it so many times that it's nothing. I think that's all it is. How do you face an aggressive defender? The key to facing someone that's aggressive is that you have to be aggressive. So if you're shying away from the aggressiveness or the pressure, they're going to get you. So if someone's aggressive with me, my deal is I'm going to go at you. So who's going to be more aggressive, you or me? So if you scoot up, I'm going to beat you off the dribble. That's what it's going to be to me. I'm not turning off that attack mode. That's really the secret to it, because I used to get pressured. I remember my freshman year, I wasn't used to ball pressure that much. And so the first time I ever faced it, like I didn't really know what to do. I had never been trained to do anything. I had always been so skilled in middle school that people didn't pressure me like that. And I didn't play tough enough competition to go against it. And so the first time I did play competition that was like pressuring me, I'm like, oh shit. I kind of shied away. I didn't know what to do. And what I learned was you just have to attack it. Like that's how I overcame it. Was I realized I was like, okay, I can't just let them stay close to me. So if they get too close, I'm going to go past them. And that's the principle in basketball. When someone is too close to you, you have to attack them. So understand that that's the right thing to do. And then you actually have to do it and practice it and practice under pressure. That's the first thing I teach at practice usually. Every year when I have a new team, we work on everything under pressure. Triple threat, live dribble, traps, everything, because I want my players to be comfortable in pressure, and I never want to lose a game because we can't handle it. And so, that's always the first 2 weeks of practice for me personally when I have a team, is we are going to work under pressure no matter what, and y'all are going to learn how to deal with it. So then when we face it, it's not going to be new to you. You're not going to look shook. You're going to understand what you need to do, and you're going to be comfortable in that situation. And so that's what I think you got to do, is attack it and practice against it over and over and over. Put yourself in that situation. When you're playing against people, tell them like pressure me or go against the best defender, ask for the best defender. You always want the best matchup or someone that's at least going to bother your handle and see what it feels like. And then you just rep it out over and over and over and try to beat it. No one can take the ball from me, but I struggle to get to my spots or past defenders. Is it mental? I don't think it's mental. I think it's really a foot speed thing. And what I realize is you will not do something that you're not capable of. You know what I'm saying? Like your body knows instinctively what you can do. And so if your whole life you've been outrunning people, automatically you have an instinct that's outrun people or run past people. You know what I'm saying? But if you're naturally not quick enough or whatever it is, or you don't consistently beat people off the dribble, then that's not going to be your instinct. Your instinct is going to be to escape somehow without going past them. And so I think you really got to work on your explosion and, your burst and your quickness and those type of things. I think that's probably the number one asset in basketball. I've said this before, is like if you're not quick or you don't have some type of quick first step or explosion a little bit, basketball's going to be tough, man. Like the best players in the world, the best scorers in the world, they all have a quick first step, or they are just way bigger than the person guarding them. Those are the only two circumstances. But even then, like people always say, Luka's not athletic. His first step is a beast. Luka's first step is a beast. Like, don't get it twisted. Even though Shaq was a giant, he was still quicker than a lot of them people that are guarding him. So quickness is just the biggest factor in sports. Even for a quarterback in football, when they try to escape the pocket and they barely miss that sack, like Mahomes isn't athletic, but he has a quick first step where you try to sack him, he's going to get out of there. Lamar Jackson, obviously, he's going to run past everybody on the field, that quick first step. And so being able to go from 0 to whatever your max speed is in like a 0.1 second, that's going to be the difference. And so when I'm facing a defender and I'm trying to get to the basket, I'd make sure that they can't tell I'm about to go to the basket, but then when I do decide, it's in a fucking flash and I'm gone. You know what I'm saying? So that's really what it is. So you really got to work on that first step and that quickness and that burst. And then over time, you'll start to see it translate. You know, when you're facing a defender and you decide to make a move, you'll be like, damn, okay, I'm starting to get by people. You know what I'm saying? So work on that athleticism, work on that first step and that explosion, and you will see it translate. And then your body instinctively will know that you are quick enough to get certain places, and you'll do it. It's like dunking, right? Like if you can't dunk, you're not gonna have an instinct to jump as high as you can and try to dunk over somebody. You're gonna have a different instinct, is to shoot a floater or change your layup. You see what I'm saying? So your instinct is gonna be based on what your natural attributes are. MJ's instincts were to fly through the air and dunk on your center. Kyrie's instincts are a little bit different. You see what I'm saying? It's because they got different attributes and their bodies can do different things. So that plays a factor. How can someone transform their game completely in 6 months? Like, what should they be doing daily? If you really want to transform your game, like, to tell you the truth, you gotta be borderline obsessive. All the best players that I've ever seen, it's really just in them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't really. Yes, you can be taught the skills and you can be taught all these different things, but if you don't have like a semi crazy nature of being obsessed with something to the point that people look at you weird or people look at you crazy, like, why are you doing this thing so damn much? Like, this is all you want to do. You know what I'm saying? I don't really think you can transform your game like that. And there are players I've seen, you know, I got a new student in my academy the other day, or, you know, like a month ago. And her mom was like, yeah, she shoots 500 shots every morning before school. And I'm watching her, you know, just shoot around on her own, do stuff. I'm like, okay, it makes perfect sense. This kid is crazy. You know what I'm saying? But it's, no one told her to do that type of stuff. Like, that's just, it's just in you, bro. Like, no one was telling me to wake up at 6 a.m. and go get shots on the shooting machine before block weight training. Like, no one was telling me to, you know, spend 45 minutes before every open gym working on handles and doing these different things. Like, nobody was telling me to do these things or to set a number in my mind. Okay, I'm gonna go to the Y 400 makes every single day. Like, this is what I'm gonna do. You know, nobody was like forcing me to do that type of stuff. And so for you, if you really want to be great, it's in you, bro. It really is. And it kind of sucks to say that because I try to make players great that aren't necessarily going in that direction. You know, I try to push them to greatness, and what you start to realize as a coach is like, damn, it's one of those things, you got it or you don't, man. It's like a different level mentally. You know, I can see it in some kids when I watch them play, and I just know, like, there's no way you're doing those things on the court if you don't want to go to the gym and work and grind and put in a crazy amount of hours in order to attain that level of skill. I just know that's not possible when I watch kids play. I'm like, you can't do that unless this is what you're doing in your off time. You know what I'm saying? And so in reality, the best answer I can give for you is obsession. Like, if you're obsessed, you're going to figure it out. I promise you. You're going to make things as hard as possible. You're going to really push yourself to the limit, and you got to emulate your favorite players. Of like, when you hear those stories of how Steph Curry works out, if that's your favorite player, then you got to copy that. Like, my stories were the Kobe stories of like, damn, this is what he's doing every day. This is how he works out every day. He does this many shots every day. He's running like this in the gym by himself. Like, this is what he does. All right, bet. That's what I'm going to do. You know what I'm saying? Because I figure if he's the best and I want to be the best, I'm just going to do what the best does. So if you want to be the best, you know, you got to act like it. In reality, you can't just hope and pray and some miracle is going to happen. You got to get your ass in that gym. But tactically, I'll give you a couple tactics. I always say work on your weaknesses until they become a strength. Like, everyone hears that and they don't actually understand what that means, which is, if you're bad at defense, get your ass in that gym and do some defensive slides. It's that simple. Like, I've been bad at defense before, so I was in the gym and my girl would come in the gym and I'd be like, yo, time me when I do these sprints or I do these runs. Like, time me, can you help me? Like, because, you know, I just wanted to get better. And I'm in the gym from 10 p.m. and the janitor comes in at midnight and asks me why I locked the door. I'm like, yeah, I got you. And then I leave at 2 a.m. You know, that's just how I operated. And so when you really want something, you'll look at every weakness and then you will do the exercises correlated. And then the exercises don't got to be crazy. Lane slides work perfectly fine. Dot drill with the footwork, or ladder drills or jump rope or line drills or whatever it is, those things will help you get faster. Running hills and defensive slides up hills and all those type of things, like the basics will work for most people. You don't need a crazy workout. If your mid-range sucks, shoot 1,000 mid-range shots every single day and watch what happens if you do it game speed. I don't think there's any mysteries. I think it's just, are you willing to deal with the pain that comes with turning a weakness into strength? Because it is painful. It's not easy. It does hurt. It's mentally exhausting. But if you can deal with that, you could do it. How to get your handle like Kyrie. You want to know the truth, man? The truth to get your handle like Kyrie, I'm be honest with you, is you got to dribble every second as much as you can, no matter how you're moving. Even if you're just walking with the ball. Like, the way I got my handle up was I was everywhere I walked. If I was walking to the gas station, I was walking to my friend's house. If I was walking to the park, I even still do this to this day. No matter where I walk, I'm dribbling the ball with me. So the ball naturally becomes a part of my movement. So now, no matter what movement I do with the basketball, it feels comfortable to me. I know how to maneuver it. I dribble off the crack in the sidewalk. I've done consecutive between the legs for like a mile straight. I've done that before. And so I can only speak to my handle, but I can assume that he does the same thing of just dribbling as much as possible until the ball becomes a part of you, and there's no difference. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't even think about the basketball anymore. You want to dribble so much that's what it is, where you don't even realize you're dribbling. You're just moving. You just happen to have a dribble that matches every movement that you have, because you always move while dribbling the basketball. It's just a part of you. Like, no matter what step you take, you just happen to be dribbling a basketball in your daily life. If you do that every single day and dribble as much as possible, I can 100% guarantee you'll have handle. It's not a mystery. People that can't dribble just don't practice it seriously enough. That's what I believe. It's not that hard. It's not. How do I score within my coach's offense? You got to realize what opportunities come to you. And just because you're running an offense does not mean don't be aggressive. So if you go and set a down screen, for example, right, is there an opportunity to slip on that down screen? Like, is that the read? So just because you're running a play doesn't mean don't read. All a play is, or all an offense is a collection of actions. And so to every action, there's a read. So if every down screen, there's a read. Every ball screen, there's a read. Every cut, there's a read. Are you reading that or not? That's really what it's going to come down to. And so whatever your offense is, you got to know every spot and know every read and every opportunity. And then when you catch the ball, do something. Don't act like you have to swing it every time. Somebody has to shoot it. That's what people don't understand. Somebody has to shoot the ball. And so why not you? Why not? So when someone drives in and kicks it out to you, shoot that shit or attack the closeout. If you get a kick out, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get a closeout. And so read the closeout and then shoot it or drive or do something. Cut when there's space and get the ball. You really just gotta play basketball and stop thinking so robotic and like, okay, coach called a play, I have to do these actions. Like, no, you don't. You go and you start the action, and then if a read opens up, you take the read. A smart play is always better than the play that's called. Like, that's what I always say. It goes, do the smartest play first, take the advantage second. And so if you have a speed advantage or a mismatch advantage or like size wise or something like that, take that advantage. And then third, run the play. That's what I tell my teams every time. It's like, yes, I'm gonna call these things, but don't forget, the smartest play always wins. So if you can do something that's smarter than the play I just called, do it. If you can do, if you got a mismatch and we're supposed to be running this play, but there's like a 4-foot guard on you against a 6-foot person, like, throw that shit in the post to the 6-foot player that has the mismatch. Fuck the play. So I tell my team this. I don't think every coach tells their team that, but just understand that's the laws of basketball. The smart play always wins. So even mid-play, if there's a smarter play. And I remember in college, we were in practice, and we were supposed to be running like this down screen offense or whatever it was. And I was the one setting the first down screen. And my player started to cheat. He would just stay down by the block and wait for me to set the screen, so then he'd already be there. And so I didn't go set the screen. I'm calling for the ball on the wing. I'm like, just throw me the ball. Like, he's all the way down there. And people are looking at me like I'm crazy. And I'm like, why would I go set the screen when he's just standing right there? Like, you could just throw me the ball. I'm wide open. And you know what I'm saying? But everybody was looking at me like they were dumbfounded that I would say something like that. but I just understand how basketball works, and of course they threw it to me. I shot, I missed it, but even though I missed it, I don't think that was the wrong play because it's like I'm just making the read regardless of what the play is, so I think that's what you do. And when that happens, make the shot. If you miss it, fuck it. How can I practice with intention so that when I'm in a game, I don't have to think? I don't. I think not thinking comes with your experience in live play. So the more you play, the more you get used to just the flow of basketball because there's only so many things that can happen in a basketball game. And I think you really just got to get used to playing and your skill set and playing a lot of one-on-one. So there's not enough practice in the world. Practice does help you not think technique-wise. But when it comes to reading, that comes from playing. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know which one you're asking for, but it's really just the basics. Like there's only so many crossovers. You're going to do it in and out. You're going to cross over in front. You're going to cross over between. You're going to cross over behind. You can wrap around behind. You can spin. There's maybe two different spins. Like a protect the ball spin and then like a spin like you're on the run. That's really all there is. There's not much else. And so, knowing that is practice all of those different crossovers with different types of footworks. So sometimes there's like a hang cross or just a regular cross in front or a delay cross. Like there's different types of crosses when you go, or different styles when you go and crossover in front or crossover between. There's different ways to do that. But, just practice all of them and practice them as many times as you can until you can't mess them up. So then when you're moving, your techniques are going to be automatic. Your instincts will recall the technique that you've been practicing. It's like when you shoot it, your body recalls the technique you've been shooting with. You don't have to think, okay, move your arm. And like when you first learn to shoot, you don't have to think about that shit at some point. And so you just really got to rep out the basics of the technique and having balance in everything you do and moving at a certain speed, and just discipline with your posture and stuff like that. So then, when you want to perform a skill, your instinct makes your body do the thing that you've been practicing when you need it. That's really what it comes down to. And then when it comes down to making the reads without having to think that much, you'll just recognize the opportunity and then you'll instinctively do it. Like the thing I was mentioning earlier, where the person was way down on the block cheating and I just popped out for the three. Like that was an instinct to me because I'd repped that out 10,000 times before and I know that read. But also with the reads, sometimes you don't necessarily need as much experience with a read in order to get it down. Like I was a type of player, and I know players like this where you can say, I've coached players like this as well, where you can say, hey, do this move in this game or make this read, and then they'll automatically do it in the game with no experience. They just have that connection of, like, I don't know what to call it. I think it's just the level of genius that you have naturally. I remember specifically, it was this girl I was coaching. The first time I had ever met her, they were doing this one-on-one drill, and I was like, hey, when they try to cut you off, since they're coming from this angle, just spin the direction that they're coming from, and you can probably get a layup. And she's like, okay, never worked on it. I could tell she had never worked on it. Like, we never drilled it. We never did anything. As soon as she touched the ball, she just, like, drove in. Here comes the defense. She spun right off of her for a layup. You know what I'm saying? I think that's, like, a level of genius that you really can't teach, to be honest with you. But I think it comes from, I think this is also a person that's not insecure. The best players are the least insecure mostly. They don't really think too hard about the things that they do. And this is one of the players I had to tell him. Some coaches would tell him, like, oh, that's a bad shot, this is a bad shot. And I had to tell him, like, for you, there's no bad shots. Like, you're young and you're the best player on the team. And you need to play in a way where you're not thinking so much. And so if I tell you there's a bad shot, then you're thinking and then it's interrupting your instincts. The good that you do outweighs the bad a lot. And so I'm going to let you just go and learn. And so don't ask me, was that a good shot or a bad shot? And I would have to remind her, like, she would ask me and I'll be like, what am I going to say? She would be like, yeah, there's no bad shots. And I'd be, okay. You know what I'm saying? Because that you got to be free in that sense. If you're not free in that sense, then you won't be able to make that translation right away. And I think it's just a natural genius thing. And for the people that don't have that, you got to fucking figure out how to get as close to that as you can. Have a different level of awareness and pick up the pieces as you go, man. Just be free and try to make the read and make the play when you can. I don't know what that skill is. If I could teach it, I would, because that's probably like the most important skill on earth. is to be able to take something from someone just saying something and you can implement it into the game right away. That takes that takes a different level of awareness to do that. How can you shoot over taller defenders and practice for that when you're alone? I mean, shooting over taller people, it really comes down to knowing how much space you need. So I know how much space I need in order to get a shot off from specific people. Like, I rarely ever had got my jump shot blocked, you know, because I understand just spacing. And that's another one of those like genius level things to where I see athletes that just know they can get shots off over with this much space no matter where they're at. They just understand to barely move the ball and they can get the shot off, or to step back just a little bit or shoot it just a little bit higher. I think that's an understanding of yourself. And I think when I see that in younger kids, it's a different level of genius. I cannot tell you enough about where I don't know where that comes from. I don't. I think it might come from playing sports all the time and being so in tune with competition to just know your spacing and know how it feels to have people around you and how much space you need to do certain things. You know what I'm saying? Because the way I started to learn spacing in that way of how much space I needed to do certain things was playing football and playing soccer and playing tag and playing all these different sports, to where I got so comfortable moving in a competitive environment with a lot of people close to me that you naturally start to pick up on different things and you just learn. And so I don't know where that comes from, but I think the basis of it is you have to understand how much space you need from specific defenders in order to get a shot off. Practicing by yourself, you could use your imagination. I think that's the only way. But other than that, you gotta play live basketball a lot. As a smaller guard, how do I guard mismatches in terms of someone using their strength? I mean, this one's tough. I think the number one rule is just don't let them touch you. Like, you got to learn how to move around them and strip the ball and different things like that. Just watch smaller guards guard the post. Like, they don't really let people just back them down. They usually move to the side and try to strip it. And they don't let the big dude touch him. Like, the person that has the strength wins in a physical advantage. So you don't want them bumping you and stuff like that. You want to be elusive. And just wait for them to expose the ball. I think that's the only way. How do I not dip the ball too low when shooting and keep it in my pocket? I've been struggling. I think that's a focus thing. Like, when you're practicing, you have to focus on that so intensely that over time it starts to override your natural muscle memory. So, like, it's the same thing when you're trying to change your shot at any level. Is whatever it is you're trying to change, you have to intensely focus on that every single rep, just one rep at a time. Focus on, okay, I'm not going to dip the ball on this one rep. And then you do that over and over and over and over. It's literally, you got to take it one rep at a time and force your body to do it consciously while you're in practice. Eventually, it will become natural. But don't expect it to just naturally start to happen because you did it a few times. Like, this is going to take a while. And so, every day that you're practicing, be aware of how much you're dipping the ball and different things like that. And then over time, it'll start to fix itself when you practice the right way. But just one rep at a time. That's the thing I can give you. Is playing against bad competition at the Y better than playing nobody at all? I mean, yeah. I don't know. I mean, playing no one at all is going to get you nowhere. So if that's all you got, then that's all you got. But try your best to just seek out the best competition. That's what I would say. But yes, playing against randoms that are bad is better than no one at all. For those situations, just make it like put some constraints on yourself. Say, okay, I'm only shooting jump shots, or I'm only shooting with one dribble, or I'm only doing these things. Like, have your own rules if it gets too easy, to where you can still play with them and it's fun and somewhat competitive. But yeah, if that's all you got, it's better than nothing for sure. How can I simplify my game? I think simplifying your game comes from just a mental understanding of it and knowing that you don't need to do so much and being elite at quick shots. And so if you're really, really good at catch and shoot, your game automatically becomes simpler because if you have a little bit of space, you could just shoot it. If you know how to read somebody better when you're playing a one-on-one situation, then you understand, okay, I don't got to dance around so much. I just got to get this slight positioning and then I can blow past them. I need them to get a little bit closer and I can go past them, or I can get to this spot over here. Once you get really, really good and experienced, those are the things you'll start to understand. But playing one-on-one with 3 dribbles from different spots on the court, that will help you. So tactically, you can do that against elite competition. And then when you start to play in a real game, you only really know how to score 3 dribbles. And so you stop dancing around. That's what happened to me. Like, I don't even use my crossovers anymore that much unless I need them. But when I was young, when I was a middle schooler, I was crossing the shit out of everybody, like genuinely. But as I got older, I realized I didn't really need it that much because I figured out different angles and positioning, and I got faster and quicker and stronger and things like that. So I could just do one move and go. So practice one move and go, get stronger, get more athletic, and then, it'll start to translate. How do you build pro habits at a young age? I think it depends on what your standard is and understanding how bad you actually want to be a pro. Because when you want it bad enough, you start to do the things that align with being a pro. And you have to understand the truth that just being good and having talent isn't enough. And so when you hear players say, yeah, I did these certain workouts every single day, or I had a regimen, or I do this, or I stretch, or I do all that, and that's what pros do, you got to actually understand that that's why they're pros. It has nothing to do with, okay, yeah, they could just hoop. Because there's a lot of dudes, honestly, I've seen so many dudes that can just hoop. Like, the most talented players I've ever played against never played pro. And the players that were a little bit less talented than them played pro because they had a different level of discipline when it came down to how they practice and how much they practice and showing up to the gym every single day and doing this workout every single day and going to the weight room every single day and taking that shit seriously and doing all those different things. So that's really the difference, bro, because I'm telling you, the most talented players I've ever seen in my entire life didn't play pro basketball, and it's crazy to me. But I understand why. Sometimes it's because of injuries and life just goes a certain way. But other times it's just they weren't serious. I watched them. I was the dude in college. I'd count my teammates' reps just to see if they were gonna finish. And I'm like counting. I'm like, okay, we got 10 reps, 3 sets, and we get to break it down. I'm like, you didn't finish your third set. Like, that's just in my mind. I just knew, okay, you didn't finish your set, or you didn't. You did 8 instead of 10. Or you glanced at the coach and the coach wasn't looking, so you got up and pretended you were done. Like, I peeped that shit over and over and over, and then I saw the difference between them and the people that actually finished. And the people that finished their workout every single time went on to be professionals. The people that didn't, and they cheated, and they took a couple reps off here and there, and they didn't run fast, and they didn't do all these different things, never played pro. So understanding that is the truth will either force you to do it or not. I can't hold your fucking hand, and no one can hold your hand to be a professional. Eventually you are shown the way, and you got to decide, are you going to take that route or not? Are you going to do what's required? And that's really what it comes down to. It comes down to you. How can I try to be more aggressive and less passive? I think this comes from, this is obviously what I said on Instagram. It comes from necessity, I think, where your team is not that good, and in order to win, you need to perform. I think you got to put yourself in that situation a lot. And one of the things I suggest is when you go to open gyms, play on the worst team. Like, I used to do that so much where I would, even in a 2-on-2, like, I would take the player that's not as good as everyone else, or, I was okay with doing it. I might not have done it every time, but I was okay playing with the players that weren't that good, because then I got the responsibility of seeing if I can will this team to a win, and I got to rebound and I got to pass and make sure they're, in certain positions. And when I drive in, I got to trust them on the kick out and different things like that. Doing that over and over and over naturally creates a level of aggression that other players might not have. Because when you're on a stacked team all the time, you can just not perform, and you're going to win by 30. So what's really the point? I don't see the point in that. I think that's dumb. My personal opinion of just stacking the deck, so then you don't got to do that much. Even if you're the 1A on that stacked team, it's like you could still have an off night, and y'all going to win by 30. I think, to me, I don't even want to play that level of basketball. I wouldn't want to. I was like, this is pointless. I don't want to stack the team. Like, no, I want to go against the best player. I think that started to become my nature over time. And I think, that's something you can do, is just when you go to the runs and you're playing 2-on-2 or 3-on-3, like, don't always try to stack the deck. Try to beat those players with whoever else is out there, with the players that aren't as good. Once you do that over and over, then you'll start to see a difference. How can I mentally prepare myself for a very anticipated game? For this one, I said that you have to treat everything the same. You cannot put any team on a pedestal, and you cannot underestimate any team. This is the thing that I always tell my teams when we go in the summer and we're watching warm-ups. I will tell them straight up, like, this happened this last summer. I said, I know y'all looking at this team and they don't look like shit, but when they come out here, we cannot underestimate them, because I know they're gonna be shooting the lights out. Something's not right about this game. We have this matchup for a reason. They can do something. We went out there, of course, they opened up the game with like 4 threes. And I called a timeout and I said, I told y'all. I told y'all can't just look at anybody and think that they're a scrub just because they look a certain way or they weren't good last year or whatever it is. Like, that's not how shit works. You gotta take every matchup the same. And once you start to do that, when you get to those, quote unquote big games, you will not feel any different. You won't be anxious. You won't be, oh, big game tonight. Like, you won't have that feeling. It's just like, it's another game. I take all these games seriously. I don't give a fuck. That's really what it comes down to. And then the second part of that is, how prepared are you skill-wise? Like, do you work on your skills every single day to a point that it don't matter who you play, you're comfortable, making these shots or making these moves or defending or whatever it is against any level of competition? That's really what it is. And, when you work on your game so much, you get excited for the big games. That it starts to turn over to where, the teams that stink, you're like, okay. Like, I'm going to still take it seriously, but it's like, this game ain't shit. You kind of, that subconsciously, even though you're taking it seriously. But then when you get to the real competition, you're like, yeah, like, I'm ready for this. Like, they got some good players. Like, let's hoop. That's really, it starts to turn over in that way for your favor when you work on your game so much and you get a lot of experience and you're always going live against people and testing your skill set. So I think it's those two things. And then the last thing is being comfortable, giving your best and be willing to lose, meaning be willing to give everything you got, knowing that there's an opportunity to lose. That's really what it is. Like, I always think of the UFC fighters when they go in the cage and they fight in John Jones. Like, John Jones didn't need a lot of people in the face and hit people with that spinning back kick. But it's like, fuck it. I didn't train. I done all this stuff. This is what I've been preparing for, and I'm going to go in here, and if he beats me, he beats me, but I feel ready. I'm going to try to get this win. And just be willing to face your demise, I guess. Look death in the eye and say, come get it. That's just what it is, man. It's some warrior shit. Are you willing to fight another warrior for real that's made like you and that trains like you? And eventually y'all got to face each other. Are you down to go against that? Steph had to face Kyrie at some point. KD had to face LeBron at some point, or Kobe had to face MJ at some point. At some point you got to meet these other players that are great and that are exactly like you, and they're willing to kill and do all these different things, and they're willing to do more than you. It comes down to that. And once you're comfortable in that mode of like, okay, I'm going up against another warrior and we're going to see who's the best tonight, that's when you start to have a different level of freedom and you don't care as much. And then when you have that level of freedom, you perform better, because you're playing off instincts now. You don't care so much in the moment. Obviously when you do take that loss, it sucks. Like, I can't stand losing. I'm a psycho level competitor. I am. And no matter what it is, like, I beat every video game on the Expert. I beat Guitar Hero on Expert. I played FIFA on Division 1. I'm a psycho level competitor, man. And so I'm saying that even with that level of competitiveness, I'm still able to face the best and be willing to lose or look bad or whatever it is. And I think that goes the same for all great players or anybody that's super competitive. I think they're just willing to go through that and, see what happens when the dust settles. And this is the last question of the day. I redid my website for anybody that doesn't know, grandmasterhoops.com. Y'all should go check it out. A bunch of cool stuff on there. You can make an account now. Everything's self-hosted, so there's not all these external links going all over the damn place. So go check out grandmasterhoops.com, make a free account, access free resources, stuff like that. But last question is, how do you get better when you're already good? This comes down to your standard and what is it that you want for yourself? Like, what are your goals? Because when someone says, okay, I'm already good, are you in the NBA? Or are you an NBA starter? Like, do you have a couple rings already? Like, what's your standard? You know what I'm saying? There's always more to capture, and there's always more to do, and there's always more competition out there for you to face. And so I think the first step is looking at what it is that you really want and what goals you have set out for yourself. And if you've already reached those things, then maybe you're good enough and that's all it's going to be. But I think if you want to improve, you got to set out to do bigger things and you got to think bigger. And you got to put yourself out there and be like, okay, instead of being a varsity player this year, okay, I'm gonna try to be all state. You know what I'm saying? That's going to be my goal. Or I'm going to try to be an All-American. Or I'm going to try to be, top 100 in the nation. Or I'm trying to go to D1 and perform. Like I always tell kids, there's a difference between going D1 and playing D1. There's this massive difference. And so, within all of that, there's standards everywhere. And so you got to find something that you want, that you feel is attainable, and maybe even reach a little bit beyond that. It's one of those shoot for the stars, land on the moon type things. I think you got to aim as high as you want to go and work until you get to that point. If your goal is not set high enough, you're not going to do enough to get there. I think it's that simple. And then the other part of that is during your actual workouts, tactically, you have to make things difficult. And so, yeah, you can stand there and make 20 shots a spot easily, no problem. But can you do it under a certain time limit? Or can you do it with all swishes? Or, can you do it and having to run down and backs and all these different things? Like, you got to make your workouts difficult every time to where you're really, really, really testing yourself. That's really what it is. And if you're not doing that, then you're going to plateau. It's that simple. Like Steph Curry has maxed out spot shooting to where he can stand in the corner and knock off 40 in a row, no problem. He don't even think at that, but now I can almost guarantee you his workouts have like parts of it where he has to make 15 in a row and he's running all these down and backs in the middle of all these reps at this one spot before he moves on to the next spot. I can almost guarantee you that's what he's doing because he's maxed out all the other shit before that. And so he has to find a way to push the boundaries of, okay, can I make 15 in a row in 2 minutes? And every time I shoot a shot, I got to run to half court and back and sprint. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about how hard that shit would be. And so those are probably the things that he's doing at this point in his career because he's the best shooter on the planet. And so for you got to find what that next level is for you. Maybe it's just, okay, can I make 3 in a row each spot? That might just be the next thing. And then it's like, okay, let me make 5 in a row in a certain amount of time. I don't have to run and all this shit, but just 5 in a row, and I got a minute to do it. Those are the different things that you got to start to add on to your workouts in different ways and have a penalty of if you don't make it, okay, you got push-ups. If you don't make it, you got down and backs. If you don't make it, you got rim touches or whatever it is. You got to have the consequences in there in order to know, like, if I don't fucking make this, I got to do something because I didn't make it and hold yourself accountable to that. That's where the next level starts to come in. And if you can do those things along with raising your standard of what you actually want out of your career, then you'll find some improvement. Hey, a couple bonus questions. These questions were submitted after I made the video, but I wanted to throw them in there real quick since I saw them. First one is my freshman team struggles. So this is super vague, but I think the main things you got to go over when you're coaching a team is, for one, how to handle pressure. For two, you got to go over just the basic skills every single day, like passing with both hands, jumping to the ball, especially since this is a freshman team. You got to just grind out the basics every single day. And you got to figure out who your best players are and fast. And then also offensively, y'all got to have some sort of system to where the team just knows what the rules are. There's too many times, even when I'm watching varsity games, where the team has no idea what they're executing. It's just people standing around and then it's ISO, drive kick. Okay, they catch it, stand around, ISO, drive kick, and sometimes they catch and shoot it. Like, y'all got to have some sort of rhythm to how you guys play and a couple sets to execute out of. If you don't have that, your team is going to be ass. I don't care how much talent you have. You need to be able to execute on a half-court level. And then other than that, it just depends on your talent level. So you might just not have talent, to be honest with you. You need talent to win. I don't care what any coach tells you. You need the talent. So, think about all those things and think about how you guys are practicing and make sure there's some sort of emphasis on just the basics of basketball every single day and implement those in different ways and different drills, especially like, for example, if you're doing help defense, you can do 1v1 help defense, you can do 2v2 help defense, drive and kick and rotate. You can do a lot of different things that have to do with help. Just make sure they understand the base principles, and just look up, different drills on how to do those things, and make sure you understand the concepts yourselves. Your team is only going to know as much as you know, and they're only going to figure out things based on how good you are at teaching. So, think about all those things, and hopefully that kind of helps your team out. Next question is, how do I guard shifty players? I think the number one rule is just keep them to one side. Don't play them even. Don't let them dance around. Pressure them a little bit and keep them on one side. If they try to cross back, sit on it. I think that's your best bet, especially if they're quicker than you. Don't let them dance around and go whatever direction they want. I think that's the biggest mistake people make when they're guarding, quick shifty players. So just force them one way, keep them one way. If they score going that one way, then either you can keep doing it and see how it goes and then adjust later on. But that's the best thing that you could possibly do. All right, this is the last bonus question. It's how to get over the feeling of always having to prove yourself. I think that comes down to playing for only you. Like, don't play for other people. Don't play because someone said you have to play. You know what I'm saying? Don't try to feed into others' expectations of you. Like, if you let people set the bar on who you are, it won't be long until they tell you you ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? Because for me, I had both sides of it, right? When I was young, there's a lot of people that knew I was good and thought I was good, and there's a lot of people that thought I sucked. So who am I supposed to listen to? Who should I be proving right or wrong? You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm getting opinions that go both ways, then it don't really matter at the end of the day. And I always say, people call LeBron trash every day. He's one of the best players to ever play, but people always say, oh, he sucks, he can't do this, he's not better than this player, he's not top 10, whatever it is. But it's like, it's LeBron, bro. Like, let's get real a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But I think it comes down to playing for fun always. Like, fun is the cornerstone of basketball. If you're not having fun, then everything else you do that involves the game is useless. And then, as far as trying to prove yourself to people, it just understand, you're not going to be thinking about their opinion when you're 87 years old. Eventually this game is done, and, you get old and you're going to turn 90, and it's not going to matter. So if it's not going to matter then, it's not going to matter now. So fuck what they're talking about, and just play for you. Like, if people are talking shit, use that as energy to get better and get in the gym and say, I'm going to get better out of spite or whatever it is. And if people are praising you, be thankful and be grateful, but don't get too high on that either. Because then that's how you stop working and you get complacent and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So, it just is what it is. People are allowed to have an opinion, but at the end of the day, just make sure that you have your own goals and your own self-perception, and stop following what people think is right. Because everybody thinks that the smartest people in the world are stupid until their idea works. Like, I just read a story about the founder of LinkedIn. Everybody told him that his shit would not work and that it was a dumb idea, but he did it, and now it exists and people use it. So, being the only person right in the room is a difficult feeling to move forward with if you've never been that. But understand that it is possible to be the only one right in a room full of people. I've been there, so it looks dumb at first, but being right in the end is what matters. So just do you, man. It's your life at the end of the day. No one can live it for you, so fuck it. All right, that's the end of the show. Appreciate you watching all the way to the end. If you did, again, go to grandmasterhoops.com. If you haven't already, check out some new stuff. I'm building a library on there, matter of fact, of just because I have so many posts on Instagram and TikTok where they're just fleeting. I posted one time and everybody sees it and it's awesome, and then if you didn't save that video, you probably have 10,000 saved videos on your account anyway. So now you're looking like, where the fuck is that one video that I was watching? That video was good. It's impossible. And so what I'm doing is I want to take all the best videos I've ever, found or clipped up or whatever it is, or even ones I've made, and I want to put it into a library. So when you go on my website, you can just go through the library of, okay, these are coaches talking. These are this is training advice from different players. Okay, these are all Kobe interviews, good clips from him. These are mindset clips. I really want to have that organized so then people can access it. And the only thing you'll need is an account. It's going to be free. So go over there and make an account. So when I start to build that archive, you can access it over time. And Hopefully there's a way for you to favorite videos on there. I don't know if it is. It'd be like a mini YouTube. It's like it'd be like a curation. That's what it's gonna be, like a curation of content. That'll just help you improve on the court and off the court. That's really what I want to do, is build that library out and just be able to give people access to it. So they don't have to search far and wide or hope I post it or save it on Instagram, and they delete my Instagram account and now you can't find this one video that, got erased or whatever it is, so I'm building that out. So make sure you go on there and make an account for free.
I can't lose touch of the real life, get caught in a net. Think that I needed a wake up call, sometimes I sort of forget. This year I won't be around too much, I might do more, say less. My doggy just touched down from Paris, so I might say wesh. What's goody? The fit weren't loud and I stepped in a blacked out hoodie. I'm fully invested now, so I gotta see tracks get bullied.